Hey, welcome to today's video. I'm Richard Chapo. I'm an attorney in San Diego, California, and I've been advising online businesses for about the past 20 years. Today we are talking about the California Consumer Privacy Act and nonprofits. And apparently we are also on the filming set of Apocalypse Now. What is that noise? I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like 50 helicopters rolling by. But I digress. So, where were we? Okay, today we're talking about the California Consumer Privacy Act and nonprofits. The California Consumer Privacy Act, also known as the CCPA, was enacted in the summer of 2018. Don't panic. Don't panic. It doesn't go into effect until January 1st, 2020. So, as I'm recording this in February 2019, you still have 10 months to get your act together, or if you're going skiing, 9 months. Now, the CCPA has been referred to as the GDPR Lite. The GDPR is a privacy regulation in Europe, known as the General Data Protection Regulation, went into effect May 2018. And from a business perspective, it is ugly, 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 ugly. Run away, run away, run away. It is a nasty piece of bureaucracy that really nobody loves. It's just a nightmare of requirements and record keeping and tech changes and everything else. Very, very nasty law. In fact, Google was just fined $57 million for violating it. And, people that work at the DMV think it's a bit much. It's one of those fine pieces of legislation. Now, the good news about the CCPA is when you actually read it, I know, crazy concept. It's not the GDPR light. It's not the GDPR heavy. It really isn't the GDPR at all. It does have a general idea or general theme in common, which is to give consumers more ability to understand how their information is being used, who it's being shared with, what's being collected, and in some cases to put a stop to that. But it goes about it in a very different way, and it's nowhere as horrible as the GDPR. So what about nonprofits? That's why you're here after all. Well, I have very good news. If you run a nonprofit, you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, or your boss sent you to try to find out the answer to this question, the news is good. Nonprofits do not need to comply with the California Consumer Privacy Act. Yep, that's it. Okay, it's not. There is a caveat to this, and the caveat is that if your nonprofit is not, wink, wink, really a nonprofit, then you do need to comply. And so what are we talking about here? Well, if your nonprofit gives or creates financial benefits or profits for your contributors or members, depending on how you set it up, then in that situation, you are going to have to comply. So essentially, there are certain forms of associations and things of that sort where this can occur. Let's use two real world. It's easy for me to say. Good Lord, let's try that again. Let's use two real world situations to give you kind of an example of what's going on here. So let's say we have a charitable group. They're in Los Angeles. They take donations and run after school programs for at-risk kids. They provide them with food, things to do, people to watch over them, those kinds of things. I think we can all agree that's a nonprofit. It's a classic nonprofit where the money is being used for social good and nobody's going to be driving a Jaguar. And so, I think in that situation, everybody's going to agree, okay, that's a classic nonprofit. It doesn't have to comply with the California Consumer Privacy Act. Now let's look at a second situation where we have what I like to call the whiff of profitability. Yes, the new Calvin Klein perfume, profitability. So what are we talking about here? Well, this example may stun you unless you already know it. And if you do, boo. But if you don't know this, you might be shocked to find out that the NFL is a nonprofit organization. Yes, a tax-exempt nonprofit organization. Actually, that's a lie. They recently gave it up. But for many, many, many decades, they were classified as a tax-exempt nonprofit organization. And you may think to yourself, how could that possibly be? And apparently what happened was a creative law firm essentially separated out the administrative offices and some other aspects of the quote-unquote NFL. So you have the commissioner's office and groups of this sort, and created them as a separate entity that is nonprofit. Now, obviously, the teams are for-profit and money is passed down to them accordingly. How it gets from one point to the other is anybody's guess, and I imagine that you would have to bypass a number of men with guns and dark sunglasses to get the answer on that. But nonetheless, that was how it shook out. Now, does the NFL's nonprofit element have a whiff of profitability? Is it taking actions that provide financial benefits or profits to its contributors or members? I think we can all agree the answer is yes. And if you don't agree, then let me ask you a simple question. When Mr. Goodell goes out and negotiates a TV deal for $6 or $7 billion, with that revenue going to the teams, is he not providing a financial benefit or profit for them? He's undertaking actions that certainly are producing that TV contract and those payments. So I think that we can really probably not go out on too far of a limb in that regard. So what about in the real world? Assuming you're not a behemoth that's the NFL size, well, you have to be careful depending on the type of nonprofit you are. Again, if you're a classic nonprofit where you're doing something good for society and there's not much money involved, you don't really have to worry. But if you're in a situation where maybe you're an association for industries, so I'm a lawyer, obviously we have associations in our industry that are technically nonprofit, but some of the actions they undertake, they can help us. They can help us through perhaps classes or other efforts that are going to make us profitable. Same with the dental association, medical association, all these different groups. Now, the example or the answer for your specific situation is not something you're going to find online, nor should you ever try to find online. Instead, you need an analysis of your particular nonprofit. So you should have used an attorney to set it up, or perhaps you have one advising you now, and I would speak to them and make sure they're aware of the California Consumer Privacy Act and the nonprofit exemption, and have them go take a look at it and give you an opinion one way or the other. Because you want to make sure that obviously you don't get the wrong answer here. Because if you do not comply with the California Consumer Privacy Act and 4 years down the line, the California Attorney General determines that you should have, well, you're facing two major problems amongst probably many problems. One is there's going to be a large fine, and two, you are going to get some very bad publicity. And yes, I realize the old cliche is any publicity is good publicity, but I can't imagine contributions to a non-charitable or to a nonprofit group are going to go up if there are news reports that you're breaking the law. So probably want to be careful with that one. So anyways, there you go. So as a general rule, nonprofits do not need to comply with the California Consumer Privacy Act. However, if you have that whiff of privacy, the whiff of profitability, you're providing financial benefits or profits to your contributors and members in one way or another, things become a little more iffy, if you will. So make sure to speak to the attorney that works with your nonprofit to get a better, more defined answer. So anyways, that's it for the video today. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. I'll be happy to answer them. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. If you did not enjoy the video, I feel shame. We are actually going to be issuing more videos on the California Consumer Privacy Act. So if you go to our homepage on YouTube, just click my name down there below. You'll see a link to playlist. Click that, and you will see California Consumer Privacy Act playlist. And it will have a number of different videos on different topics that may prove beneficial to you. And obviously, if you're interested in just general online topics as well, you can subscribe to this channel. And we usually kick out a video or two every week on some interesting, fascinating, in fact, I may say fascinating, online legal topic. I'm talking riveting here. You don't want to miss this. We're talking Oscar quality stuff. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have yourself a good one.